Walter Sports Bar in Navy Yard offers $5 happy hour in both snacks and drinks. To reserve a table, visit waltersdc.com/happy hour.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
1-0 Chicago, the pitch. Line drive, base hit, left center field. Benintendi will come in to score, and now it's 2-0 Chicago. RBI single to left center for Corey Lee on the very first pitch from Long.
1 ball, 2 strikes, the kick and the pitch. Swung on, hit in the air to left field. Easy play for Benintendi, shading his eyes. He's under it waiting, and he makes the catch, and the White Sox have done it again. For the second straight game, they shut out the Nationals, and they win this 3-game interleague series.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, May 16th, 2024, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Well, so much for the Chicago White Sox being the worst team in the American League. They are the worst team in the American League, but the Nationals just got shut out in back-to-back games at the White Sox and losing 2 or 3 games in the series. Wednesday afternoon, a 2-0 loss. The Nats lost at the White Sox 4-0 on Tuesday night in Game 2 of a doubleheader. The Nats for this regular season now are 20-22. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by Roaming Rooster. Roaming Rooster, proudly stationed in Section 239 in right center field of Nationals Park, adding flavor to every game day experience. That's Roaming Rooster in Section 239. Nats manager Davey Martinez on Wednesday afternoon went with, shall we say, a JV version of the Nats lineup. Shortstop CJ Abrams did not start. Second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. did not start. Outfielder Eddie Rosario did not start. We had Nick Senzel as the Nats starting third baseman and number 2 batter. We had Ildemaro Vargas as the Nats starting left fielder and number 3 batter. We had the rarely used Nasim Nunez as the Nats starting shortstop and number 9 batter. And so the Nats on Wednesday afternoon shut out just 3 hits, which were a double and 2 singles. The Nats did draw 5 walks, but the Nats went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position and struck out 12 times. Mark, that was a rough offensive performance.
Rough and honestly, Al, kind of predictable. I mean, when you see the lineup they put out there, you knew it was probably going to be a struggle to score runs. Either that or somehow they would score 10 runs out of the blue. But I feel like we've had this discussion several times already this year. It still didn't feel all that different from most games that they play. And pretty much every game we know they're going to get decent starting pitching, even if it's only for 5 innings. They're going to get pretty much good relief pitching. And they're going to give themselves chances to score runs. It's not like they get to completely shut down where they only have a handful of base runners in a game. They're going to have their chances. And every game, it seems like it boils down to, can they just come through once or twice with a man in scoring position in a big spot? You know, in the first game of the doubleheader on Tuesday, they did, and they won that game. In the nightcap, and then again in the series finale, they did not do it even once, and so they get shut out. It just feels like it's such a small margin for them. When you play the style of baseball they're playing, pretty much every game boils down to that. Can you deliver just once or twice with runners in scoring position? And when they don't do it, I don't care what the lineup looks like, but when they don't do it, it's awfully frustrating.
What was the deal with the lineup. I mean, I get trying to get guys rest. Davey seemingly went all in on getting guys rest for this game, and it came across like it was kind of a tap-out game of, hey, if we win, great. If we don't, we can live with that. But we have not seen a lineup like this season.
No, I think it was this kind of perfect convergence of a few different things. There are players who, number one, have been struggling, and number two, have not had any days off. CJ Abrams hadn't had a day off in forever. He'd only missed 3 games this year. That was all when he had a pinky issue way back earlier in April. He had not had one in quite a while, and he has kind of struggled at the plate here lately, like we've talked about. Luis Garcia, Jesse Winker, they've had some more days off than the others, but we know Winker's been dealing with a bad back. They just played a doubleheader on Tuesday, so this actually turned out to be 3 games in 24 hours. Start to finish, they completed 3 games in less than 24 hours. That's a lot for anybody, so I think there's that part. And then who they were facing, and Garrett Crochet, a really tough left-hander. And so the idea was, let's just put all the right-handed bats out there. And so all 4 guys on the bench were left-handed hitters. Now, I don't know if it would have made a difference or not. CJ Abrams has done well against lefties this year, so I don't know if that's the number one reason for him. But I think you put that all together, and in Davey's mind, with another off day on Thursday, here was a chance to let these guys kind of hit the reset button and hope they get off and running again starting Friday. You hoped that they could scratch together enough to win this game, and they almost did, and all 4 of those guys did come up to bat before the game was over. I'm sure for people who saw that lineup, they thought, what in the world is going on here? I'm not going to say it was the right move to do that, but I think there were 3 or 4 reasons that when you combine them all together, explain why he did it.
Yeah, I think Davey overall is doing a good job this season. I would, though, wonder, why not spread out off days for regulars instead of trying to bunch them all together for one game? I suppose there's an argument for what Davey did of, hey, punt on one game, especially against a really bad team, as opposed to, spreading out key guys not playing over multiple games. But man, that lineup was underwhelming, and the results, like you said, really weren't that surprising. The only players close to offensive bright spots for the Nats on Wednesday afternoon were Riley Adams and Ildemaro Vargas. Adams is the Nats starting catcher and number 6 batter, 1 for 2 with a double and a walk. And Vargas, as like I said, the Nats starting left fielder and number 3 batter, 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. Also had a stolen base, but he did commit a fielding error. There are multiple Nats who are struggling right now, but what is happening with Keibert Ruiz really is becoming tough to watch. Keibert, on Wednesday afternoon, your starting designated hitter. So that tells you something right there. A guy who is really struggling, and he's in the lineup as the DH, and this has happened, a decent bit lately. Starting DH, number 5 batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Among those strikeouts, Keibert in the top of the 3rd, striking out swinging with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Your Keibert Ruiz OPS for this regular season is down to 393, which is atrocious. We all want to see him do better. We all know that he's capable of doing better. He's not doing better. I know that the approach has been to keep playing him. Do you see that approach changing in any way?
I'm not really sure what the alternative is, to be honest. If he's healthy, which he says he is, and the team says he is, I don't know what else you can do. Riley Adams has done a nice job here and there. He had struggled at least until this game. And I think we have seen that for the most part, when he plays a lot, he's not as effective. I know he did a nice job when Ruiz was out, but he started to cool off towards the end of that stretch and then certainly has since then. Keibert Ruiz cannot be sent to the minor leagues. He's out of options. Obviously, he has a long-term contract, so I don't think there's anything to be done there. I think they kind of have to ride this out. Now, we talked to him after the game. He's down. You can tell it. He knows what's going on here. What I found interesting was he kept saying things like, I need to make the adjustment to get better. And I asked him, what do you think that adjustment is? And he kind of admitted that he has to stop and think about it. He's not entirely sure what it is. And then he mentioned several things, such as pitch selection, whether to be more aggressive at the plate, less aggressive at the plate, to go up there and have a better plan of attack. I think there's a lot of thoughts swirling through his head right now, and that might actually be the worst thing that can happen. Maybe he's one of those guys who right now would be better off just going up there looking for a good pitch to hit and hitting it and not overthinking it. I don't know if that's truth or not, but just talking to him, I almost got that sense that there's maybe too much going on in his head right now. But I don't see any major changes there unless they come up with an injury to put him on the IL. I think he's going to be out there and still catch the majority of the games.
He missed a lot of time with the flu. Is it possible that he should have missed more time that this weight loss really did a number on him and that he should have been out for longer than he was out.
So I kind of hinted at that with Davey and with Keibert. They both said they don't think that's a factor anymore. Now, they might have just interpreted that as, is he still not feeling 100%? And obviously he's had more than enough time to recover. I think if you can go back, the way that was handled, they could have put him on the IL sooner, obviously, and they could have given him more time on a rehab assignment after the fact, get him some more games, some more at-bats. I think the issue here is that, not that he's sick and not even that he lost the weight, but that in that time off, you lose your timing, whatever it may have been. And it's harder just to get that back at the big league level. We see it all the time. Guys rush back from the IL. They play 1 or 2 rehab games. I remember it's happened with Ryan Zimmerman a lot over the years. And it takes several weeks for them to now find their swing again. Maybe they could have been a little more disciplined and told him, go take a full week at AAA or wherever he was in the minors. Get yourself in a good place, and then we'll bring you back. I imagine they were feeling internally some pressure to bring him back because they knew that Adams was getting worn down. And for whatever reason, they weren't playing Drew Millis a whole lot. And so in their mind, they maybe thought, we need to get this guy back as soon as he is ready again. Well, look at the results. In hindsight, maybe it would have been better to take your time.
Yeah, it was a few years ago that we lamented the Nats not having many young catchers. And the Nats in recent years have actually found themselves now with some young catchers, guys who you feel like maybe can play here, and Keibert Ruiz and Riley Adams and Drew Millis. And this was a circumstance to where you could have leaned on that depth and played Millis some and given Keibert some more time. That didn't happen. And whether that's tied to these struggles or not, it's really rough seeing him struggle like this. I mean, Keibert came into Wednesday with a negative WAR on the year. He's a below replacement level player for the season. That's not what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a foundational piece in this rebuild. He's supposed to be a CJ Abrams type guy in this rebuild, and he's been anything but so far this season.
And it's not, those numbers are not because of his defense. It's because of the offense. He hasn't been great defensively, but he has been better defensively. You look at the metrics, the framing, everything else has been better. So that number is not a reflection of poor defense. It's a reflection of how bad his offense has been.
You think about the Nats offensively, and we get the style, and the style, when it works, can be a lot of fun to watch, but it does take a lot for that style to work, and that is the problem with that style. You have to get guys on base, and you have to get the running game going, and you can't be making outs on the base pass, and you got to play fundamentally sound station-to-station baseball. This is not shocking anyone, but the lack of home runs really do hurt this offense because you're not going to get on base a ton every game. You're not going to have 5-6 stolen bases every game. Like, that's just not realistic. You need to be able to hit bombs, and they don't hit bombs. The Nats in this regular season have 35 home runs. That's it. That's near the bottom of the majors, and I know that that's not shocking. This is the way that the Nats have been in recent years. Hopefully that is improved upon when James Wood is called up, whenever that ends up being. But he's only one guy. The Nats have got to get some of their guys with home run potential going. Look, Keibert has home run potential. He's got to get going. I know he hasn't played well this season, but Joey Gallo, when he comes back, like that maybe can be someone who can add some oomph to this lineup and, provide some home run hitting power. We saw CJ Abrams, of course, hit homers earlier in the season. He has since cooled off. But to whatever extent there is a source for more homers, boy, it would help if the Nats could mine those sources right now.
It makes a huge difference because you don't now need like 3 good things to happen just to score 1 run. You need 1 good swing. I think Joey Gallo could be activated on Friday. I think that's a discussion they're going to have on the off day. He's been at AAA for now over a week, hit some home runs there. I don't know if that's going to translate to anything when he gets back up here. We know he was not having a good season before hurting his shoulder, but maybe, just maybe, he gets on one of those streaks where he does start connecting and producing runs in bunches. And the other name to keep in mind here is Lane Thomas. We've mentioned it at the time. They really miss him as somebody who can do a lot of different things for you offensively, certainly can hit for power. Good news there. I watched him today running the bases for the first time since suffering the MCL sprain. That injury was only 3 weeks ago that he sprained his knee. And I'm not sure I would have imagined seeing him run the bases, not at 100%, but not that far off from it, at least to my eye, to do that already in 3 weeks. Now, there's still several steps he's got to go. And like the others, they have to make sure he actually goes and plays enough baseball before he's activated. So we're still talking weeks away from that, but a little bit encouraging that if you get Gallo back this week, if you get Thomas back in, say, 2 to 3 weeks from now, that should hopefully inject something into the lineup that they're sorely lacking.
Yeah, it's funny. It was on April 24th that the Nats announced having placed Lane Thomas on the 10-day injured list with the sprained left MCL. It feels like January 24th. It feels like he has been out for a lot longer than that. Not that this guy would be a cure-all, but are you hearing anything on Stone Garrett? I mean, is he going to be brought up at any point this season? Do you think that that's a realistic possibility here?
He's playing every day at AAA, basically, for them. He is a minor leaguer now. He's not injured. He's off the IL. I think they would have to feel like that was a better alternative than what they have. And look, whether you like it or not, their outfield at the moment, it's Jacob Young in center, who has done, for the most part, a nice job and is getting the chance to play every day. It's Jesse Winker and Eddie Rosario, the two veterans, who, at least Rosario lately has hit well. Winker started the year hitting really well. So if you give up on either of them, they're gone altogether. It's Victor Robles, who they could do something with. We know they may decide at some point to give up on that, but that's who their outfield is. And so if the idea is that Lane Thomas is coming back relatively soon and Joey Gallo is coming back probably to play first base, but that probably pushes Meneses to the DH spot. I mean, yeah, you can try somebody like that. I've had people on Twitter ask me, why don't they call up Travis Blankenhorn, who's got big numbers at AAA? Look, we saw him in the big leagues last year. I think if he was really that big of a difference maker, we would have seen some evidence of that in the big leagues before. But in any of those cases, no matter who you want to call up, including James Wood, you have to be prepared to make a move that's going to involve releasing somebody, DFAing somebody, removing them from the equation altogether. That's where they're at right now. Now, that day may come. Maybe it's coming relatively soon, but that's what you're talking about here. There's not a simple, just send this guy down and call this guy up kind of move to be made. That's not the roster they've constructed, for better or worse.
And James Wood, even if he is called up and is great, he's only one guy. Like, it can't just be him. Others need to be better. And too many guys right now are not as good as they should be.
This episode of Nats Chat is brought to you by Roaming Rooster. Established in 2015, Roaming Rooster began as a food truck roaming the district before anchoring its first brick-and-mortar establishment in 2018. Inspired by a mission to provide quality comfort food that customers can feel good about eating, the award-winning fast casual restaurant offers fried chicken that is grain-fed, free-range, and antibiotic-free. With 11 locations throughout the DMV, we are on the move, gearing up to unveil 2 new locations in Maryland, one in late summer at Woodmore Town Center in Glenarden, and another in the fall in downtown Silver Spring. In the meantime, find us at Nats Park, proudly stationed in Section 239 in left center field, adding flavor to every game day experience. That's Roaming Rooster in Section 239.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
You're finally tackling your spring home improvement projects. Hello, 2024 Dream Garden. Until you realize you're short 3 bags of mulch. And why didn't you grab that pair of gloves you were looking at? Luckily, through Instacart, you don't have to stop mid-project to run to the Home Depot. You can get your missing gardening supplies, tools, and more delivered in as fast as 30 minutes. Have more time for your project and get the Home Depot delivered via Instacart. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply.
Here's your James Wood and Dylan Cruz updates for the games played on Wednesday. Wood in AAA played left field, hit third. 1 for 4 with a double and a walk. He struck out once. OPS at 1,036 on the season, down to Double-A. Big day for Dylan Crews. 3 for 5 with a pair of doubles, knocked in 4 runs. His OPS is at 816 on the season. Now back to the show.
Same thing in the pitch. Ground ball third base line. It's fair. Past the lunging Senzel. Down the line, headed toward the corner. This may score a run. Shoemake trucking around third. The ball misplayed by Vargas. So the run scores, and over to third is Pham. And the White Sox lead 1-0.
Well, the shame of the Nats' bad offense on Wednesday afternoon was that the Nats' pitching once again was good. Patrick Corbin was at least decent for a third consecutive start. He officially allowed 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings, though the second run charged to him came with reliever Derek Law pitching. Corbin gave up 6 hits, which were 2 doubles and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded no strikeouts. That's hard to do in today's MLB. 5 2/3 innings, no strikeouts. But such is the state of Patrick Corbin. But look, 2 runs, 5 2/3 innings. That's a good job. He threw 82 pitches, 53 strikes versus 29 balls. So Corbin in the bottom of the third allowed a run. He issued a leadoff 4-pitch walk of the White Sox's number 8 batter, Zach Remillard. And Corbin gave up a one-out RBI double by Tommy Pham to left field. And this is where that Ildemaro Vargas error happened on the double. Vargas committed a fielding error in misplaying the ball near the left field corner. Corbin in the inning also issued a 2-out 5-pitch walk of Eloy Jimenez. But you get that from Corbin, and then 3 Nats relievers combined for 2 1/3 scoreless innings. Derek Law, bottom of the 6th, faced 2 batters, did get just 1 out. He on the first pitch he threw gave up a 2-out RBI single by Corey Lee to left center field for a 2-0 White Sox lead. But Dylan Floro, 1 2/3 scoreless innings. And Robert Garcia faced 1 batter, threw 1 pitch, got 1 out. The Nats, for this regular season, have a team ERA of 3.75. That is good pitching. The pitching overall has been good. The offense is not carrying enough of its weight right now. And this surprisingly good pitching is, I don't want to say being put to waste, because I think the Nats overall are having a pretty good season. But man, imagine if the Nats were hitting even a little bit better. What might the record be?
Right. I think that's the troubling part of it all, is that this is not what we expected. Certainly not from the rotation to pitch this well. And so you're saying, man, if they were just hitting a little bit more, they could really take advantage of this surprisingly good pitching, and they might truly be in business right now at a time that we didn't think they would be. So I think that's what's going through everyone's minds right now. And then to say, well, do you think the pitching can continue to that extent? And if so, what do you do to now try to get the lineup to produce a little bit more and take full advantage of that kind of pitching? You know, Patrick Corbin, I know the overall numbers still are not good, and his April was awful, but his last 5 starts, it's a 3.46 ERA. The problem is he's only gotten 1 win in that time because they're not scoring him runs, or they blow it after it comes out of the game. But for the guy who has clearly been their worst pitcher, he's even doing an effective job right now. We know what Trevor Williams has done, and we know that Gore and Parker and Irvin have, for the most part, been better than not. And so you put that all together, pretty much every game, their starter is giving them a chance, and the bullpen's keeping it close. The Derek Law thing that's frustrating there, he's been good in the bigger picture, but he's now allowed 11 of 16 inherited runners to score. And I know that that's a flukish thing that you can't necessarily duplicate. He was really good last year with Cincinnati. Remember the whole thing with Daniel Hudson that was great at that? I don't know that that's a skill that you can perfect necessarily, but he has been bad at that. And I do wonder if at some point Davey Martinez says, well, hang on, maybe let's let this guy start a clean inning and bring in somebody else from a bullpen that's been very effective. Let's have somebody else come in and try to be the fireman when they get into trouble, the starter before him. But again, we're kind of nitpicking here. In the bigger picture, it's hard to be anything but really satisfied with what they've gotten pitching-wise.
You give up 2 runs, you should win, and the Nats did not on Wednesday afternoon. And, you know, I think a lot of us have a sense of, okay, this great pitching probably isn't going to continue. Like Trevor Williams isn't going to continue to have an ERA under 2. The bullpen is being used a lot. At some point, you're going to start to see some cracks in the armor. But I would counter that by saying Josiah Gray has been out for more than a month. He was your best pitcher last season. Cade Cavalli at some point is going to be pitching for the Nats at the major league level this season. So even if a Trevor Williams falls off or a Patrick Corbin falls off, Gray at some point is coming back. We don't know when, This is taking a while, but Gray at some point will be back. And Cavalli, presumably in June or July, will be pitching in the majors. And so some reinforcements are on the way. There's going to be a regression with the pitching. I think it's pretty safe to say that. I also think there will be improvement with the offense. I don't think the offense is going to continue to be quite this bad, especially from a power hitting standpoint. Although it was bad from a power hitting standpoint last year, so I guess you can't assume anything. But it is remarkable to see this. And, you think back to the coaching staff changes this past offseason. Two guys who were not removed, the pitching coach, Jim Hickey, the hitting coach, Darnell Coles. And I think certainly in the case of Hickey, he deserves some credit here. This pitching staff is being maximized right now.
I think what Hickey has done, and I know they're trying to be careful not to pump him up too much, but Sean Doolittle was added to the staff as well. And kind of privately, I do hear that he has had an influence on a lot of these guys. That's not to discount Hickey. I think he has done a good job. But I think Doolittle deserves some credit for that as well. And Coles, I'm sure he's going to come under fire when the lineup is struggling to this extent. We know he is, generally speaking, a contact over big swing kind of guy or philosophy. How much of that is a product of what their personnel is? Let's find out once James Wood is here and some others who maybe have the ability to hit for power. Maybe that changes somewhat. But pitching-wise, I think you have to be pleased with what they've done and give some credit where credit is due.
For sure. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens now in this next series for the Nats, a 3-game series at the National League leading Philadelphia Phillies. As finally, the Nats are done playing American League teams, at least for now. But here you have the Phillies having a really good season, best record in the National League. Game 1 Friday evening at 6:40. Intriguing pitching matchup, Jake Irvin versus Zach Wheeler. Game 2 Saturday evening, 6:05, Mackenzie Gore. Game 3 Sunday afternoon, 1:35. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. The Phillies, as has been the case in recent years, hit home runs. The Phillies, as has been the case in recent years, score runs. A lot of imposing batters in that Phillies lineup, as we know. A lot of ex-Nats in that Phillies lineup, as we know. It's hard to beat the Phillies if you do your thing of, nothing but singles and getting on base via hit by pitches and stolen bases. Hey, God bless you if you can win that way. But it would seem like the Nats are going to have to bring the power if they're going to come out of this series with a win or two.
They're going to have to bring the A game all around. The pitching's going to have to continue to be good. They have to somehow keep the ball in the yard against that lineup in that ballpark, which is much easier said than done. The defense is going to have to be better. No mistakes, can't afford to give away outs. And the lineup, you have to deliver when you have the chance to score runs. And you got to have the guys who are capable of hitting the ball in the air need to do that. If ever there's a ballpark that can get you out of a power slump, that should be the place to do it. You hope that it happens. Like I said, maybe Joey Gallo is back. Maybe he connects once or twice and makes a difference. But they're going to have to play a whole lot better if they want to win even one game there, let alone two.
Hey guys, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. The time has come. The time for Window Nation's semi-annual sale. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week. This runs through the end of the month. Many so-called wood or composite windows are actually made from waste materials like wood fibers and cannot beat the efficiency of Window Nation's insulated vinyl windows. Window Nation's vinyl windows can do everything that you need and at a fraction of the cost of wood or composite windows. You see, nobody does windows like Window Nation does. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Again, that deal, the semi-annual Window Nation sale. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
The Nats are on the road for the rest of the week and are back in D.C. on Monday night against Minnesota. Check out the Game Time app for various ticketing options. As of right now, you can get a seat behind home plate in Section 120, for $68 a piece. There are also much cheaper seats in the outfield that go as low as $5. Game Time offers the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
With everyone fighting for attention, how can your business stand out and connect with customers? Easy, with Constant Contact. Constant Contact's award-winning marketplace platform has helped millions of small businesses stand out, stay top of mind, and see big results fast. It's okay if you don't know much about marketing. Constant Contact's writing assistant tools and automation features help you craft messaging and say the right things at the right time. I use this to help write and send my email newsletters, and you should too. So get going and start growing your business today with a free trial at ConstantContact.com. Just go to ConstantContact.com right now. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall. ConstantContact.com.
You have to be cognizant of who's running in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
I know Parra reminded him who was running in front of him.
Right.
It's a base. There was a base hit directly at the right fielder with Riley Adams at second base. Almost immediately, you have to figure he's not going to send Riley Adams in that situation. But Victor, he was running hard. He had his head down, though, and didn't look up at times. So that's a mistake on him. It's happened way too often, and Davies addressed it with him, and he's just got to get better at it.
I caught Mike Rizzo's weekly appearance on the Sports Junkies on 106.7 The Fan on Wednesday morning, and he was pretty blunt about the defense recently. He said it has not been good. It has not been acceptable. He brought up how, the Nats over however many games early in the season had so few errors, and lately the errors have ticked up. But what's interesting, and we talked about this some, even when the errors were low, the defensive metrics for the Nats were not good. And I feel like what we're seeing here is a market correction, not unlike a pitcher who has a good ERA but bad peripherals. The Nats' defensive quote-unquote peripherals were not good. And so I think you're seeing the Nats' errors, basic defensive numbers come back down to earth because we are seeing some sloppiness. And Rizzo made an interesting point. He talked about how at the end of a game, a player should be exhausted physically, but also exhausted mentally because you should be invested on every pitch. And he suggested that the Nats aren't invested on every pitch defensively right now, as should be the case. So these are basic things, of course, but yeah, the defense has fallen off a bit, and I guess it gets magnified when you're not hitting all that well. And I guess it's also a credit to the pitching that it continues to put up good numbers, even, with the defense having taken a step back or two here. But that defense needs to get back on track because, again, if you're not hitting homers, you need all those different aspects of your run prevention to be on point. And the pitching lately has been on point, but the defense has not been.
Yeah, and I think what we talked about of the, were there signs, even when they weren't committing errors, that they weren't as good as that? Yeah, there was some of that. But I think also you could say that right now they're not as bad as they've played defensively the last week to 10 days. I think they are better than that. They're capable of cleaning up some of that stuff. But that's interesting what you said that Rizzo had to say about it, because that is not about mechanics. That's not about, arm slots or anything like that, trying to make throws. That's about focus and staying fully engaged everywhere in a game. And I wonder if he was thinking of Victor Robles in that game the other day in Boston, if that came to mind, and a few other things. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here in that regard. But the style of baseball that they are attempting to play right now, and they're attempting to play it because this is what their roster is. There are things they can do, but there's not a whole lot they can do to completely overhaul their roster right now. So how are they going to have to win games? Good pitching, good base running, good defense, and then hope you hit enough. And they're doing, they got the pitching. Base running's still been pretty good, but as soon as the defense slips, it just puts even more pressure on a lineup that, as we know, has to scratch and claw for every single run.
Rizzo, by the way, did skewer Victor Robles in that interview. He was also very blunt about Robles. I would say this, too, about the defense. It is good that the Nats have become a lot more positionally versatile as compared to a few years ago. I remember in 2021 talking to you about that, how the Nats did not have the positional versatility that other teams have. But when you are moving guys around to different positions, the defense can suffer. Here you have Ildemaro Vargas, we see him a lot in the infield. He on Wednesday afternoon playing left field commits an error. Trey Lipscomb right now is all over the place. Third base, second base, first base. It was, within the last, 2 weeks, he played a game at first base, did not look good defensively. So I think you got to be careful with that, right? It's great to have guys who are versatile, but if they're not good at each of these positions that make the player versatile, then the versatility doesn't do you all that good. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, look, a team that is trying to win games should not have to play Ildemaro Vargas in left field very often. And it's happening a little too much right now. Now, it's a product of what's going on. And to his credit, he has hit more than others. So I think it's crazy as it sounds, Davey trying to find a way to get Vargas's bat in the lineup. But that's not the way to try to go about this in the long run. He's a utility infielder. He does a nice job when asked to do what he is capable of doing. I think they have to be careful not to ask too much of him, like, say, bat third and start in left field for you.
Hey, shout out a big Nats Chat listener, Mark Suhu, wants everyone to know about his friend, a huge Nats fan, Josh Douglas. Josh's new book that came out this week. The book is indeed very DC. It is called The Court versus the Voters, the troubling story of how the Supreme Court has undermined voting rights. The book is available to order on Amazon. This is Josh's second book, and Josh is very proud to say that his first book came out in 2019, a special year for multiple reasons. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Roaming Rooster. Roaming Rooster proudly stationed in Section 239 in right center field at Nationals Park, adding flavor to every game day experience. That's Roaming Rooster in Section 239. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, and you can find us on YouTube as well. Just search Nats Chat. Our YouTube handle is at Nats Chat Podcast. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. At hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.